searching for a victim in the heat of the night. Black Tiger,
The mothership has landed. Hollywood has all the voices. Pirate Radio. Welcome to the jungle.
Ladies and gentlemen, live from the broken down, low-rent, sleazy, double greasy Pirate Radio Nut Hut Studios, it's time for the very first ever Southern...
CPR Street Gang, this is all fighting. Standing by, over. CPR Street Gang, this is all fighting. Standing by, over.
Right now, it's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines...
clocks run out. Time's up. Wind is blowing cold and dark. On the road and no way out. Broken hearts, a smoking gun. On the run. On the run.
My name's Jimmy. It's Aftermath FM. It's Thursday night. We're gonna time warp tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Stick around. Fasten your seatbelt. Epic Journeyman's here. Rockin' Rio's here. I'm here. You're here. Bruce McDonald's here. Get ready to time warp back to 1977.
Boom, boom, out goes the lights. All right. Hey. Okay, now there's an opportunity in this song for us all to do a little shouting out here, okay?
There was a major event that took place in 1977. This song right here is a clue. Into the microcosm. It's on the air. Aftermath FM.
Now, kid, I'm ready to fight. I've been looking for my baby all night. If I get her in my sight, boom, boom, right here. Now, kid, I'm ready to go. If I find a boom, boom, what is it? Well, I thought I cheated my baby back, but I just found out she don't want me here. If I get her in my sight, boom, boom, come on. Hey, my Mr. Strong.
See, that was Pat Thrall, the rhythm guitar player for the Pat Travers Band. Mine's Jimmy. It's Thirsty Thursday, and we got a great one planned for you tonight. I couldn't find the window to close this Pat Travers boom boom out go the lights, but that's going to be a hint. What happens when the lights go out?
Track 14, trying to maintain proper stabilization on this channel without creating a situation of overmodulation.
Epic German. Are you there?
I am here.
Excellent. This sounds like your balls dropped. You've been up climbing mountains or riding big waves. Your voice sounds deeper, man.
Yeah, I was climbing the mountains to get to the big waves.
There you go. Well,
climbing down the mountains.
Did you hang glide down to the wave area, swoop in with your longboard, and then lean back and put your glasses on and surf in, jump on your motorcycle, and ride back over to your Jeep, and then four-wheel back over to the cliff, and then jimmy down the side of the cliff and swing around on a link over to the other side of the canyon, where you tippy-toe across the tightrope, land on the other side to take care of that small job you had over there on that little chunk of the island?
Well, but pretty much, actually, yesterday I was something not quite that expansive happened, but not to me. I was driving back to go to another site. I was on the road on the highway. And these two kids come skateboarding on the highway. Mm-hmm. Now the highway is not like a highway in Los Angeles, it's just a 2-lane highway, right? Yeah. It's on the west coast of Maui. Oh. But this one guy, he's actually got the surfboard. So they're skateboarding, but they're carrying their surfboards with them. Oh, and the one guy's got the surfboard over his head like a paraglider kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
And there's trade winds here. So he's actually getting momentum.
No.
Yeah. right. So he's using the surfboard to help, propel him, which I thought was pretty awesome. Now, the other guy that was behind him, he was holding it sideways, which is something you should probably never do, because you get blown right over out in the street, man. Those winds rather will pick up and hit you by surprise sometimes.
It's funny you should say that, because I was just watching a video today of a couple of guys who built a ground effect drone in the privacy of their own garage. For
1975, a Russian guy invented that. It was huge, man. It was like 200 tons.
Now they got
more than that. It was they got 600,000 pounds empty, and it was 860,000 pounds full. Well, it could go 380 miles an hour across the ocean.
Did you see the link I sent you? These guys built
I did.
Out of
exactly what it was, because they got inspired from that Russian guy.
But they put FLIR in on it, on the wings, and they dialed in an algorithm so they could just fly it like you could just move the joystick to the left and it would just fly to the left. Really powerful. Couple of guys in the garage. And speaking of guys in their garage.
Wait a minute. Something's wrong. Hey, hey. Now it's a mambo Italiano, mambo Italiano, go Joe. You mixed up Siciliano, you calibrate do the mambo like crazy, and mambo don't want a tarantella, mambo no more. Mambo Italiano, try an enchilada with a fish of bacalao and hey Goomba, I love how you dance.
Hey Goomba. Hey Goomba, why do they say have an enchilada with a pinch of bacalao? I guess it's just anything. That rhymes with I don't know. You know,
an enchilada with bacalao would be like a salted fish taco.
something like that. I don't know. Or I was thinking it was that. You go to those stores and those dudes go, my friend, try the baklava, my friend. And, you know, I've tried it. You know, baklava, it's not bad. It's kind of like
I'm thinking bacalao like fish, but baklava like the pastry.
Well, you know what? Maybe you're
that
right.
would make sense.
You're right, though. That's Italian, eh?
Yeah.
So that would make sense. But what about the enchilada, though? Is an enchilada? There's no enchilada in Italy, is there?
Italians eat the enchiladas, but it's technically a Spanish food.
But I mean, back then, I guess when this song came out, people didn't know the difference between an enchilada not being Italian food, because most people didn't have an enchilada unless they've been to California or Mexico. So I don't know, but Bruce McDonald would know. The man, the myth, the legend from the Talamanca Mountains has joined us. Bruce McDonald, are you there?
Yes, present.
Excellent. Yeah, man. Well, hey, listen. We got a new feature, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to, right here when we get here first thing, we're just going to spin the wheel of fortune and see who it lands on. Each one of us, if you've seen something today on the news that stuck out to you guys, I want you to bring it up, call it up into your memory right now. And then what we'll do is I'll spin this wheel, and whoever it lands on, I'll call you out. And whatever has been on your current event list today, what you've seen, what's bothered you, something new, something, great, anything. It doesn't have to be bad, but whatever it is, we're coming to you right now. So get ready. I'm getting this wheel out, and I'm putting the graphite on it. Hold on. Hang on a second. Let me get this thing all wired in here. All right, hold on. There we go. All right, get ready. We're ready. There we go. Oh! It's Epic Journeyman. All right, dude, what do you got on your radar? Quick.
Yeah, something was on my radar for a long time when I first moved to Hawaii, when I quit my job and came out. It was facial recognition. It was because they had the Real ID Act was supposed to take effect right when I moved out. I took a picture of the sign. It was going to start in like September 2019 or something like that. So you still had some time. That's a chip that was going to be on everybody's card or passport or everything, right? And it got canceled. It got nixed because the outbreak happened, and you didn't hear much about it since, right? But while that was going on, when I was leaving the airport in San Diego, there was this, and I think I stopped someplace else along the way. But the point is, they had these special rooms where they had the facial recognition set up, and instead of using your passport or your ID, you could go and get your picture taken for future facial recognition passport. And you never heard about it since. Like, what the hell happened to that? Well, they launched it yesterday. They launched it in Atlanta yesterday. So Delta launched it, and it's gonna be everywhere, right? And the thing about it is, it's you sign up for it. You get an app. You get an app on your phone, and then it scans your face and stuff. You go stand in front of the machine, it takes your picture from all these different angles and stuff, and voila, you're done. And from that point on, you sign on to it goes to TSA as well, and you don't have to stand in line anymore. You just walk through a facial recognition scanner. It's a room, it's not like it's a little tiny funneled area like it is now going through TSA, and there's like several machines and stuff when you walk through. It's like a lobby, at least it is the one I saw, and yeah, off you go. Now, the thing that's interesting about this, what caught my eye, no pun intended, it wasn't about the facial recognition, was that I noticed that around that time and for the years leading up to that, they kept pushing more and more the boarding pass on your phone. Get your boarding pass on your phone. Don't carry the paper. Don't lose it. Just put it on your phone. Have it scanned with QR code, right? And I made the connection right away back then that QR code, it wasn't that they wanted the boarding pass on your phone. It's they wanted your phone's data, right? Because it has your location data, and it matches up to you. And so when you sign up into this app, you're going to be carrying on your phone for your facial recognition ID. It's using all that data gathered on you, your movements, and everything else you ever did with that phone or once before from your subscription service. And now that whole time, these things that were there, 3 years ago, that weren't being used, this whole time they were checking people coming through the airport and seeing how accurate their facial recognition was, whether they had a mask on now, all these things to foil the AI. And the AI knows your phone, and it could check like, oh, that's Jimmy Jean. And then sure enough, it scans your phone, and yeah, it is Jimmy Jean. He's been through here before, right?
That's right.
Yeah, it's a checksum. It's a checksum way of looking at the data that's gathering and seeing how accurate the algorithm is.
All right, well, that's a good one, man. That one has legs. We'll probably get into that some more. Let's see what else is going on here. What about you, Rockin' Rio? The wheel is broken. I can't make it spin for some reason.
You broke the wheel already?
I already
just
did.
got that wheel.
I know.
We just got that a couple days ago. What are you doing to it?
I know it was interesting too because I watched this website clear out and have it come back. I'm wondering if trying to see if it's real. Wait, yeah, it's real. Go ahead, Rio. Go ahead.
So the thing I've seen over the last couple days is a little bit on the disturbing side. From this whole, I guess you'd call it the woke crowd, has gotten woker.
No.
And it's spreading to television now with, I guess the best way to describe it is children in drag.
Get out of here, man.
It's promoting the, transsexual agenda kind of thing, but it's the latest one and the biggest one, and this is a full 2-minute commercial called "The Witch and the Little Princess" by Twix, and Mars Candy Company, and it absolutely has nothing to do with candy until like the last 3 seconds of the commercial where they put up Twix for Halloween. But it's a little boy dressed in drag, in his little princess dress, and the witch comes around and she helps him out, and the little boy's at the playground, and somebody else says, "Hey, you're not supposed to dress like a girl," and the witch hexes him, and it's really kind of
interesting. So there's a witch.
It's kind of bizarre, but beyond that, this is not just the Twix commercial. This John Lewis Insurance Company, which is European, also did a home insurance ad that got banned from television after the first time it played, of a boy dressed in drag. He's probably about 8 or 9 years old, so running around the house dancing to "The Edge of 17," Stevie Nicks. So here again, you have the witch and the little princess as a kind of a theme, right? Because everybody knows Stevie Nicks is a witch,
right?
And he's got makeup on, he's got lipstick on, he's running his fingers through the paint, kind of wrecking the house, knocking pictures off and smearing paint on the walls and throwing glitter in the air and kind of stuff like that. And then on top of that, there's a Coca-Cola commercial. It's in Spanish, so I'm not sure if it's from Mexico or farther south, where there's another, so say 8 to 12-year-old boy, and his mom is dressing him up in drag and putting lipstick on him and eyeshadow and helping him present as a female. And it not only is it disturbing because 8, 9, 10-year-olds should not necessarily be that aware of sexuality at that age, but the fact that they're sexualizing children in television commercials to sell Coca-Cola and Kit Kats and home insurance is just. I mean, have we really gotten that far out of control with this?
I can see why.
That's just my opinion, but have we really gotten that far out of control of it?
I see why there's so much money gets spent on Halloween, because there's costumes. Now, I can remember back, probably about 15 years ago, a friend of mine had a son. And back then, her son, just the way, because I live in Santa Cruz, and just the way schools are here or whatever. People could, be themselves or whatever. And, she was telling me how her own son, was, he wanted to wear certain kind of costumes and stuff. And for her, it was okay and everything. And it's okay to, wear costumes and that, when you're children or whatever. But as far as,
Yeah, but this isn't like putting on this isn't even to the extent of putting on a female costume to go trick-or-treating in.
No.
This is like full out cross-dressing,
Yeah,
I guess drag maybe not even the right word. The all three children were very effeminate. Let's put it that way.
Well,
as well as being in the dress.
Let's put it this way: if you can get everybody across the world to put a bowl on their head and cut their hair like the Beatles and sing "I Want to Hold Your Hand" while they're wearing tight English clothing, you can make them do anything. So why are you starting so early to make our children be confused about where they stand?
It's not. Same thing with
it's not
drag queen story hour for kindergartners.
But
right?
see, it's not. There has to be a moment when you're not in the imaginary reality where anything you do is cool, anything you do is okay, because there's certain guidelines we all sort of have to live by, and then like when the majority of everybody is not going by the guidelines that we've set up for society, then everything goes wacky, because nobody knows anything. You can't get there from here. It's like we were saying the other night.
Well, I would find this less disturbing if it was, 16-year-olds or 18-year-old high schoolers, people who are at the age of exploring.
Exactly.
But we're talking about like 6, 8, 10-year-olds in these commercials.
Makes no sense.
It's not right, man.
No.
They're still children. They need to stay innocent for a little while anyway.
Well, we should start.
They had and all three kids in all three commercials, and there's a couple more other commercials I've seen too.
Maybe with us
these kids haven't even hit puberty yet, and you're already like trying to switch them genders. It's just weirdness, man. Let them make up their own mind when they get to the right age to figure it out for themselves.
Yeah, well, maybe we should do a whole show on commercials tomorrow night. We'll run some commercials backwards on the Reverse Perverse Circus. Bruce McDonald, anything caught your eye tonight before we get going on the time warp back to 1977 when the sun was yellow and everything was mellow? Go ahead, man.
The first one is just a straight up fact. Guns don't kill people. Alec Baldwin kills people. Number two, somebody sent me a picture today from Toronto, and you know how they do bus advertising, right? Like city buses, public transport. Mm-hmm. And they had this big health advertisement saying children get strokes too, inform yourself. They are prepping people. They're literally prepping people for the consequences of this vaccine. And it's mind-boggling to me. Mind-boggling. And, I think, here's what I think. I think this world we live in, as it's conducted by human beings and our thoughts, which are a casting of spirit, if you will, our thoughts and our feelings. I think we can bring anything here. I think we could bring heaven to earth. But right now, I think we're bringing hell here. Literally. I think we're bringing the hell dimension to earth.
One of the things we're going to be talking about a little bit later, after we time warp back to 1977, is a company called BlackRock. How many people on the panel are familiar with BlackRock?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
What about Vanguard? Are you familiar with that?
Yep.
Okay, so
pretty sure they run my retirement account.
Do they? Well, let me just say, Vanguard and BlackRock pretty much own the whole world. Every single company that you have ever heard of, they own. It's literally mind-blowing. And the president of BlackRock recently came out and had an interview and talked a little bit about the future. And we're in a situation where we're having a major power struggle in more ways than one, because there's a lot of people that need electricity, that need or need gas, propane, and it's like for example, in the European Union, a lot of the vegetables that they grow, they need to use electricity to do it, because they grow a lot of stuff, under a tent or indoors type of thing. It takes a lot of energy to run those, and so they don't have the power. So this president of BlackRock says when the power goes out, people are going to be angry. That's what he said, and then right after that he said, pretty soon people are going to be angry. He was basically saying, in my opinion, he was saying the power was going out. So we're going to bounce back to 1977 because there was a power outage in 1977, but we can talk about power outages around the world, how they happen, the cascading effect. We've got Epic Journeyman here, electrician in the IBW. Could explain some of the rudimentary ideas behind some of this stuff. But ladies and gentlemen, when the power goes out, you never know when it's going to come back on, and that's the thing. It's that 36-hour period where social breakdown starts to happen. There's some psychological moment in this 36-hour period where people go, man, I don't know when this power's come back out, but I'm hungry, man. I'm just going to go down and get something out of the store. You know, there's this moment where people decide they're going to go rogue. And that's the moment where everything happens, the moment where people decide to go rogue. And, you know, I think that's part of what he talks about in the article. So we'll bring the article to the table. But from a historical perspective, you know, we got to go back. We got to pull out the chronovisor. So what do you guys think here while I'm pulling out the chronovisor? We got 3 minutes before the break. What do you guys think about this power outage and BlackRock saying power's going out? It kind of sounds like the Great Reset. Kind of like I turn off the power and then I reboot it. When I turn the power back on, there's like a reboot where everything is fresh again and new. What do you guys think about that while I get this lined up?
I think they've always planned to do that. Yeah.
I always keep a couple hundred candles. You know, power going out is no big deal for me. But you know, New York, L.A., Chicago, Toronto, power going out is a big deal. Right. And it's not just that the power is going out, Jimmy. It's just that they're going to make it, you know, so that you can't really afford power anymore. That's what all the gas shutdown is about. Right. Mm-hmm. So we have all kinds of oil in Canada, in Alberta. Now, it's a dirty oil. The tar sands is a dirty oil. I will admit that. OK. But Trudeau, forming his new cabinet, has for environment minister, he's appointed a former Greenpeace activist who has been arrested multiple times, like in decades past when he was younger. Mm-hmm. So they're going to go, and what is the first thing Biden did when he got in, right? He shut down all the power initiatives that Trump started, okay? And they want to make it to the point where you can't, what is poverty? It's not that, poverty is whatever you have to work all the time just to keep it going, okay? You don't have any leisure time, you don't have any reflection time, you don't have any self-betterment time. That's poverty. Doesn't matter whether you're in what some people consider one of the luscious cities in the world like New York, mm-hmm. or whether you're in Bangladesh. Mm-hmm. In fact, the kids in Bangladesh are probably wealthier as long as their nutrition is good, okay? Mm-hmm.
Well, and poverty,
they have their
poverty is lack of money, okay? Suffering is lack of resources, okay? So lack of money means you don't have any money. That's poverty. You can't exist in the current system. But as long as you have resources, you can exist. In other words, if you know how to take care of yourself and you know, provide for yourself without money, then you're all good. You'll be okay.
Dude, you just paraphrased Epicurus. Self-sufficiency is the greatest of all wealth.
There you go. There you go. Well, it's into the Microcosmos Aftermath FM. Remember, $79 for the year. It's a great deal. It's going to change soon, and then you know that means if it's $10 a month, that's like $120 a year. So I mean, it's a little bit of a change. So you know, $79 I think is a great deal, and I think if you can do it, take care of it, and get it out of the way, and then you don't have to think about it. You're good for 12 months, and that way, if anything happens, you still got your membership, and you can still go on there and you know, imbibe and kick back with your friends over there behind the paywall, because you got to have a paywall in order to have the freedom. See, and you know, on some level, I don't mind that. You know, that the internet guru Jared, can't think of his last name right now, but what he was saying was, if you paid for it, it would be better. Like everything, instead of getting the stuff for free, you paid for it. Like if Facebook, if you paid for Facebook, Facebook would be different. In other words, so when you start paying for stuff, it gets better. And so right now you got to pay to have the freedom. You know, it's not like you can trust YouTube's going to be there or any of this other stuff, but you can trust Aftermath FM's going to be there. My name's Jimmy. It's Into the Microcosm.
Good love has gone bad, baby. And I've been played for a fool. Good love has gone bad, baby. Girl, I've been played for a fool. But I'm turning the tables on you. Sweetheart, you've been playing.
It's Aftermath FM in stereo.
You said you called the shots the last time, baby. And all of your friends, they thought that was so cool, baby.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
When your doctor tells you you have bad cholesterol or blockages in the arteries, what do? When diet and exercise is not enough, we try medications and hope for the best. For the last 2 decades, I have been telling people about a natural method to help solve these problems and more. Extendovite can help maintain cardiovascular health and lower blood lipid levels in adults. The 7 herbs in Extendovite are known to work together synergistically to get the results we hope for. There are many testimonials on Extendovite's effect on circulatory-related ailments. Get Extendovite today to start your journey back to a healthier life. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or see us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Extendovite. It supports Into the Microcosm, and we very much appreciate them for doing that. And I can just say it's a win-win-win situation. If you want to support the show and you get yourself some Extendovite, you actually put something in your hand that may or may not do you some good, and everybody is a winner. And that's how we like it. It's In the Microcosm. It's Aftermath FM.
By degrees, not believing all I see to be so. I'm flying over backyards.
This is Tom Petty from Highway Companion.
Between the branches below.
Saving Grace.
And it's hard to say who you are.
Monday through Friday, right here at 10:30 Pacific, immediately following Clyde Lewis and Ground Zero, you'll find us. The alternative to the alternative, the underground, the after party. Getting ready to do the time warp.
I'm moving on alone over ground that no one owns. Past statues that atone for my sins. There's a guard on every door and a drink on every floor, overflowing with 1,000 amens. And it's hard to say.
All right, there he goes. Thanks, Tom. Man, when you raise the dead, it's hard to get them to go back in. And on some levels, I really don't want to make them go back in.
Don't you, baby? perfect.
All right, there we go. All right, well, so I asked you guys what was on your radar. Well, I'll tell you what's been on my radar, and that is these volcanoes going off everywhere. And now Mount Etna went off again today and blew off with some lava. So, I mean, everywhere I look, I see volcanoes, and now I see an X flare that blew off earlier today, and it's coming this way. And then I didn't even click on it because it was so idiotic, that somebody from that island, the Canary Islands, was literally recommending they blow off a bomb to stop the lava flow. I shit you not. I'm not even kidding.
They actually did that in Hilo. It's an eruption. No, I'm serious. It's an eruption here in Mauna Loa back in the day. Was it in the 70s, I believe it was. But yeah, they actually, it was going to hit the city, Hilo, and they didn't bomb the volcano. What they did is they bombed the lava flow to redirect the lava flow away from the city.
Get out of here.
It worked too. Yeah, it worked.
Was it 1977?
You know what? It might have been. I have to look it up now. I think it was 72.
All right, you look it up, and we're going to do the time warp here. I rolled out the chronovisor.
Time is fleeting. Madness takes its toll. But listen closely.
Not for very much longer.
I've got to keep control. Time is fleeting. Madness takes its toll. But listen closely.
Not for very much longer.
I've got to keep control.
It's just a jump to the left.
Ah, yes. 1977. Back when you could stop at your local car dealership, flop down $5,500 cash, and walk out with a babe slaying 1977 Pontiac Trans Am. Equipped with a 400 cubic inch displacement engine and a pissed off screaming chicken on the hood.
70s porn stash, not included.
Join us. 1977. What a time to be alive. Gas is 65 cents a gallon. The complete McDonald's breakfast menu has arrived. Laverne and Shirley, Happy Days, and Three's Companies were the shows to watch. Hey! Let's go more in depth on 1977. In January 1977, the Commodore PET was the first all-in-one home computer demonstrated at the Consumer's Electronics Show in Chicago. Founded in 1976, but incorporated January 3, 1977, Apple Computer went on to release the Apple II series that came with a 9-inch monochrome monitor, game paddles, and a cassette deck at the price of around $1,300, almost $5,400 in today's money. January 9, 1977, the Oakland Raiders and the Minnesota Vikings suited up for Super Bowl XI. The Raiders defeated the Vikings 32-14 in Pasadena, California. The Raiders coach was none other than football video game great John Madden.
He's one of those guys who will get penetration.
Gary Gilmore gained worldwide attention as he demanded his death sentence be implemented for 2 murders he committed in Utah. He became the first man in 10 years to be executed in the United States.
Execute them. Bogus.
Gilmore was executed by firing squad on January 17, 1977. And there was over $300 million worth of crop damage in Miami, Florida due to the weather. Oh, snow fell for the first time in Miami's recorded history. Jimmy Carter swears in as the 39th President of the United States. His Vice President was Walter Mondale. On Futurama, Mondale's head was preserved and put on display at the Head Museum in New York City, as well as Carter's. February 18th, the first test flight of the Space Shuttle Enterprise. September 11th, 1977, Atari releases video computer system in North America for $199. It shipped with 2 joysticks and the game Combat. September 29th, the Food Stamp Act of 1977 was instated, which brought the food stamp program to the United States. It's currently known as the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP for short.
Oh, snap!
Sweet, it's Buzz Marquee.
It was just after 9:30 p.m. when the streetwalkers in Times Square were suddenly doused in darkness, when thousands of passengers on graffiti-scarred trains became stuck, often in tunnels.
There was absolutely no panic, and you'd never know that there was any kind of emergency.
At first, in much of the city, there was a spirit of calm resilience, civilians directing traffic. Surgery moved outside at Brooklyn Jewish Hospital to utilize car batteries as backup power. With her own power generation facility, the Statue of Liberty remained lit. But the tired, the poor, the huddled masses she beckoned soon became restless, agitated, and violent.
The situation here in Brownsville was described as anarchy, war, rioting.
It was terrible. I could see from my window there, everybody looting, taking furniture, everything.
People was getting hurt, stealing, looting. And it wasn't a pretty thing. It was awful.
Unlike much bigger power outages in 1965 and 2003, New York City in 1977 was very much on edge. The Son of Sam was stalking, and the fabric of the cash-strapped city was coming apart. The blackout was a tipping point in sweltering, poverty-stricken neighborhoods, and the NYPD was weakened by layoffs and low morale.
All the services had deteriorated. The subways were filled with graffiti, crime. Police, fire, sanitation, education, social services had all been decimated.
And yet, countless examples of compassion in the face of chaos. At Tom's Restaurant, popular in Prospect Heights since the 1930s, African Americans formed a human chain around the place to protect it from looters. Such was their affection for the owners, Gus and None Vlahavas.
We've been here for over 40 years. This place has been here since 1936, so, we never went anywhere. We just stayed and we're still here.
About 25 hours later, the power was restored. More than 3,700 were arrested. An estimated $300 million worth of damage done. Mayor Abe Beame toured Brooklyn and was ushered out of office by voters a few months later. Con Ed then, as it still does today, took a lot of heat after the blackout, which was triggered by lightning strikes north of the city. While a blackout can never be ruled out, the utility insists changes were made to prevent the same kinds of circumstances that occurred in 1977. Many of the looted businesses have long since been replaced or rebuilt. In East Harlem, Tom, Dick, and Harry Shoes is still there, despite being looted of nearly $400,000 worth of merchandise that night. Michael Alessi was 17, helping his father run the place.
We knew a lot of the people, but that one day was a different story because the people, they were desperate. I mean, they were very desperate. I saw a different side to them that day.
A side no one wants to see again. David Usher, News Channel 4.
History-making blackout.
People trapped in elevators and buildings. They have activated the emergency command center.
You're staggering, trying to take in as much information as you can.
Mayor Bloomberg's advice is to go straight home.
The subway system is down.
Ottawa is completely without power now.
The lightning-quick domino series of failures.
Gotta go to the bathroom and you can't even go nowhere.
50 million people are thought to have lost power.
In 2003, a massive blackout struck major areas of the U.S. and Canada and was perceived as a wake-up call for the nation.
Coast to coast.
Hear the sirens wail. Somebody going to emergency. Somebody's going to jail. You find somebody to love in this world. You better hang on to the nail. The wolf is always at the door.
It's Aftermath FM. What you gonna do when the lights go out? I don't know. Well, let's talk about it a little bit. It's in the microcosm. That's Don Henley, New York Minute. New York Minute, yeah, man, things can change in a New York minute. You're here one day, you're sitting there watching TV, and all of a sudden, everything just clicks out. Immediately what goes through your mind, and oh no, the power's out. Where's my candles? Where's my flashlight? Where's my lighter? Where's my this? Where's my matches? Nothing will send people into a frenzy than having the lights go out. And when they go out in a place like a city where there's always some sort of light, and all of a sudden it goes pitch-ass black, there's no light. Let me just tell you, that has got to be a moment of realization for a lot of people. Come on in, boys. What do you think about this now? Here, 1977, you're sitting there, Son of Sam's running around. All of a sudden, the lights go out, man. And nobody knows when they're coming back. Did you hear that? We've known people our whole lives, and they changed that night when they came into our shoe store and stole shoes from us after we were friends with them in the neighborhood, but they changed that night when the lights went out in New York City. What do you guys think about that, man? The lights are going out. We're going to talk about it, man. This guy says they're going out, and I'm going to listen to him because everybody's trying to figure out who's at the top of the pyramid. Well, it looks like black, Anyways, come on in here, boys. What do you think about this here? Especially you, Epic Journeyman. Come on in.
I'll tell you what, Jimmy, I remember that. I was 11 years old. My parents followed it quite closely. It was a big, big news story. But I can hardly concentrate, Jimmy. My mind's on something else. Tomorrow, I'm going to get myself a nice pair of Nike Air Jordans, and I'm going to start the walk all the way to the Texas border. I think my Spanish is good enough to get me that 450K. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you. I say, si habla español. Órale. I got to say it.
Donde mi niños? Were your children separated from you, sir? Sí. Here's $450,000. Gracias.
All I got to say is...
And then I'll fly back first class.
All I got to say is, Órale, Holmes. Welcome to America. Now,
very serious topic into too much of a joke. You want to know what flashed through my mind when you were playing that New York stuff, man? Katrina, another example of like the power going out and stuff, right? Like New Orleans in 2005. Really scary, man. Shut the whole city down, jammed everybody into the Superdome. You know, there's a rape every 5 minutes in that Superdome for weeks on end. People could do nothing. No cops there. Families had to just turn and look away while a woman is screaming and getting raped. There's your human nature for you right there.
That's why you never get in the van or the truck or the bus going to the center or whatever. I would just strike out on your own and hope you can make it. But this one in 1977, this is one power outage, and it happened for a reason. Epic Journeyman. Now, these things are all tied together. Really, the electrical in your house is really a microcosm of the electrical that exists in the world as far as how it works. There's different junction points. There's J boxes or junction points, and there's different stations around and different. So there's this thing that can happen, which is called a cascading effect. Do you want to get into a little bit about that while I pull up what recently happened in Texas? Did you know Texas was 4 minutes and 34 seconds away from not having power for months on end recently?
Yeah, they messed that one up. Yep. So the thing about it is people think that the electric grid, they in their imagination, because they don't know, they kind of think it's like this big battery floating around, that there's just power out there. We kind of like plug in across the country and sap it off, and we get charged for it that way. That's not how it works. People know, obviously, but so everybody knows the way that it works is the power that's generated, it's not getting stored anywhere, generally speaking, unless you're storing in your own batteries at home or something, or in some solar farm or something like that, which you gather that way. What's happening is it's just always there. and it's being generated by rivers and nuclear power plants and whatever else, wind turbines, whatever it might be. But if you don't use it, you lose it. That's the way it is. It's out there in the lines. But those lines only have so much capacity on them. It's just the physics of it. They can only carry so much current on those lines. So, and those lines are like the wires in your house. Those are the circuits that go across the country. And if you lose one of them, maybe they can take one from someplace else because and try to patch it in, so to speak. If you imagine like the old telephone networks, with the Gladys out there answering the phone and patching the patch cords everywhere, trying to get you back online, redirecting it, taking it from someplace else. Because they have other paths, but there's not enough ampacity, to hold that current. So what happens is that cascade failure you're talking about is if people throw the wrong switch, and it's already maxed out. That's how you get those. Originally a brownout that'll turn into a blackout. It can turn into a blackout pretty fast, right? Because your power dims first, right? Because when it draws down all that power, and then it'll overload the circuits and blow up transformers and whatever else is down the line. And if you lose a transformer, then you're really screwed because those things aren't just sitting on the shelf, and there's only so many of them out there. And it takes a while to wind all those wires and do all those things to make them. And yeah, so what happened? What's interesting is the one that happened in 2011 in California. It took out the West Coast from Arizona west. That one was caused by a phase monitor, right? It's this little device, right? And the technician supposedly was out there doing his stuff, working and replacing this thing. And when it went, it took out the whole region, the whole region. And they couldn't bring it back online. And power's out for it was like 12 hours or something. It was a long time. I'm not sure I have it in front of me right now, but then 2 years later, we're just talking about the Superdome. The exact same thing happened at the Superdome. They took out the power during the Super Bowl.
Exact same board?
Same device, yeah.
Okay, so now let me ask you this question. If my device burned out right now, how long would it take me to get another one given these current situation with the shipping and the moving of goods across the planet?
You probably wouldn't get one right away. You'd have to just have somebody with a technical prowess and knows what they're doing to bypass it, just get rid of it, But then here the problem with that is, if the whole purpose of that thing is to protect it from people crossing, the term is getting your wires crossed, and where that comes from is originally I think communication, but with electrical it could be not only damaging but fatal. So what happens is, if you don't have your rotation right, your phase is aligned, then that current goes phase to phase. And when phase to phase is people think of shorts. That's essentially the same thing, but in a way it's worse, because what happens is every single thing on that distribution center and everything down line that's wired into it will go phase to phase and blow. Your 120 TV will now be 240. Your 480 motor will be double, that kind of thing, right? So and it can't handle it, and everything that's hooked up, it doesn't have kind of circuit overload protection, will be destroyed. That's catastrophic. That's why you have those to keep that from
happening. One of the main things that everybody's always afraid of is these Carrington type events with the melting of cables and all this that have been described, that have happened before. It happened with the telegraph lines and all this. And people point to these transformers and the exploding of these transformers, and then not being able to replace the transformers, because at the moment that everyone needs transformers everywhere, they all of a sudden become scarce. Now let me ask you a question. It's an obvious weak point that's been broadcast from a million times to Sunday on 60 Minutes. I mean, they've done all kinds of shows on it on the news and all this. I mean, if there's an enemy out there, they obviously know that we are all about this. Now, are we under the impression that the government doesn't have some other way of having a power grid that exists outside of whatever could happen through a Carrington type event or some sort of an EMP device, a way to generate or push power without the existing transformer system?
They have their own generators and nuclear power plants, and they have the nuclear powered vessels and all that. So, they have ways. They have backups for their operations.
Well,
but for the country at large, not really. And the thing is, like, it defeats itself, right? Like, because you need that power to wind all those windings on the transformer to make the transformer. So if the region that you're trying to get back online happens to also be the one where they make the transformers and have the equipment, they need to either move that someplace else or bring something else into, you know what I mean? It just, one thing builds on the other, builds on the other, builds on the other. Then all the raw material stuff to get there. And what happened is manufacturing in the United States, started getting farmed out overseas. So now these transformers aren't made in the United States. A lot of them are made over in China and made over in, in South America and different places like that and shipped over because it was cheaper, they thought, for labor cost to do it that way than to do it here. Nobody wants to sit there and, wind transformers all day that size, and then you do all the stuff that's necessary to make it work. Not only that, but robotics would work, but they don't want to spend the money.
Well,
so yeah, it is a weak link. It's still there.
Well, Rock and Rio, you're on the East Coast, man. How often do you use the subways, bro?
Well, I don't because I'm not close enough.
Have you ever? I know, I realize that, but I mean, in your life, you live on the East Coast, you live in New York. Have you ever jumped on a subway?
Oh yeah, I've been on a subway.
So you're in a subway. Subway is run by electricity. You would just think that they would have the engine car would also have a diesel motor in it, just in case something like that happened, but they don't for some reason.
Well, I guess being that you're in essentially in a trapped tube, underground, running diesel for any prolonged length of time would be a problem.
Yeah, but if you were stuck in there...
if it was a real emergency, like the power goes out and you just need to move the train to the station...
That's what I'm talking about.
Bail people out. It would be probably a smart thing to have as a backup.
There you go. Well, they don't, though. So what happened is when the power goes out and you're in there, you're in there. You ain't getting out.
I was like...
Or an elevator.
Yeah. Well, I know, I don't know if you guys remember, but I definitely remember it was 2003, I think, when the entire East Coast went out. Everything from Ohio east was
right, kind
of whacked out. It was like 50 million people or something that was out of power, and it was for a long time too. It was like a day and a half, and there were stories of people being stuck in subways and in elevators and in various other spots where they couldn't get out. People actually, I believe there was even a few people caught in bank vaults and things.
Well, you got to think about being up on, the 70th floor of some high rise when the power goes out and they got no way to get down in the elevators.
Well, getting down ain't hard. You can slide down the stairs, but getting back up might not be so nice.
Yeah, getting down is kind of like what it must have felt like. When you were sitting there and something happened in the one trade center, and you look at the other trade center, you're trying to go down the stairs over here, you and everybody else.
Yeah.
In the dark. Hopefully they did their due diligence and all those bulbs and the emergency lighting down the hallway are going to work because most people aren't walking around with a flashlight in their pocket.
Yeah, but you got to remember too, them emergency lights, they last about 3 hours. So,
see,
It's good to get out of the building, but it's not good if it's like, an apartment building where people got to stay in there for, more than that.
Yeah, and then what happens, do the toilets and everything still continue to flush, and do water still to continue to come out of the faucets, Epic Journeyman, when the power goes out in New York City? Am I going to be able to flush my toilet over there in the Bronx?
It's kind of funny about that. We're talking about critical infrastructure and what's considered critical infrastructure. So, even these big sky rises in hospitals, they'll have automatic transfer switches and generators to, get people out of the sky rise and keep the elevator on, generally speaking, the newer ones. But some of these old ones don't. Things are grandfathered in. But things like these, in a big city, you have all these sewage wastewater treatment plants. And the lift stations, that's what pumps it upstream to the treatment plant, those generally have generators, right? But then the wells themselves that supply the water to the tanks that give you the water pressure to run all your water, let's say you got 20 wells in your city, right? And good-sized city. And you may only have 10 generators or less, right? So you're automatically in half right away. But then, because it almost always happens for some reason in power outages, and I don't know why this is, but almost always there's a fire that breaks out. It's either some moron set one or something happened, and whatever happened, and now that water that needs to be used is being used to fight fires and stuff, and that becomes a priority instead of your sink, right? So, yeah, Now that's non-potable water, generally speaking, but what
Well-
I'm saying is it'll divert those assets for the firefighting.
Okay,
So
now-
yeah, you're going to lose your water pretty quick. Is my point.
So what I've heard is that in New York, there's actually whole crews of people that are in charge of going through the sewer system and using hooks and shit to unclog these drain holes that come out of these buildings. You know, and there's like all this toilet, you know, there's like diapers in there and all this shit. And it gets all full up. They got to go in there in these boats wearing these suits and have these sticks with these hooks, and they pull stuff out of these pipes. Now,
Yeah, man, the tunnel rats.
Now, dude, when the water goes out, I mean, when the power goes out, man, are those dudes gonna even get to work that day, or that week? I mean, if they are they going? I mean, the city's pitch black. I mean, they're going. I mean, I guess it's pitch black down there all the time, but still, are those guys gonna show up to work that day? Or maybe there's even not even there's skeleton crew because half of them didn't get vaccinated. So you lost half your crew. Those other guys are working double time. And then the power goes out. They're like, you know what, man? F this. I'm not going to work today, man. I'm calling.
Well, and the fuel shortage, right? Like, if you recall, you must have lost power in California, where everything's dependent on your car, right? All the gas pumps closed down, so we couldn't go anywhere. Like, I got called back to work. I was working at defense contractor at the time, and had to go back, and I couldn't get there because I was like, down almost on E when it happened, and there's just no place to get gas. So you hear him talking on the radio and say, hey, I can talk on the radio, but I can't go anywhere, and yeah, that's the thing. It's like these generators we're talking about. Everybody needs fuel once the power goes out. Everybody's calling up the fuel guys to get fuel for their generators because it's only enough fuel to last generally, let's say 12 hours on average, maybe if you're lucky. People don't carry a bunch of fuel on site, to refuel the generators. Generally speaking, it's just full. It has a tank underneath the generator is a backup, and that's all it is. Once you run out, you're out. So within a matter of days, all your sewage services, all your water services, everything's going to be gone.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're at the top and bottom of the hour break, and here we go.
It happens more often than we can imagine. In my case, I was sitting at home, and out of nowhere, I just started feeling uncomfortable. Then it got worse, and I started perspiring. I tried to ignore it, but I waited too long. The chest pain came as we were driving to the hospital emergency. I felt my life clock begin to tick. I barely survived. There was lots of damage done to my heart. What do I do now? I was lucky. I took a leap of faith and tried a 7-herb formula with hawthorn, garlic, cayenne, and more called Extendovite. Herbs have been used for thousands of years to keep us healthy. If you're not using Extendovite as a preventative supplement, maybe it's time to start. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
My name's Jimmy. This is Aftermath FM. This is Dave Medichetti and Y&T.
At twice the speed of sound, driving on the white line and pulling in and out. Grab the wheel and take a chance at luck. We get the rhythm, gonna tear it up and burn it after midnight. Let's get dangerous, contagious. We're outrageous, contagious. Say, walking on a high wire.
That sounds good. It's almost hard to turn that off, but since this is a talk radio network, I had to turn it off. Psych!
When the feeling's right, forget about
That's right, it's Contagious, Monday through Friday, 10:30 Pacific, right here, Aftermath FM, immediately following Clyde Lewis and Ground Zero. Don't forget Billy Ray Valentine, immediately preceding. Hold on, Dave Medichetti. Bay Area bound yesterday and today. They changed their name to Y&T, but you can find them yesterday and today, and obviously it must have to do with the Beatles, but like I was saying earlier, it's in the microcosm. Monday through Friday, 10:30 Pacific, immediately following Clyde Lewis and Ground Zero, you'll find us here. And you'll find music like that on this show because it's in stereo. I just like saying that, man. It's an Aftermath FM in stereo. Don't you guys like that? I mean, we could say it now because the power's up and running. Everybody's got speakers, but power goes out. You're not going to be hearing any alternative media telling you what's going on. How are people going to know what's going on when the power goes out if they don't have a crank radio or some kind of an old... I mean, what do you do when the power goes out? You don't got one of those old-fashioned battery-powered, AM, FM boom boxes at your closet.
You gotta go sit in your car and put the CB back on, right?
You gotta sit.
You gotta go old school.
Yeah, you gotta sit in your car, huh?
Yeah, your car is your generator, right? You have an alternator. That's where you get your power from. And if you're smart, what you do, I recommend this for everybody. Get yourself an inverter, at least a 800-watt inverter, but I do like a 1200-watt inverter. That's 10 amps. And keep that thing in your car. When the power goes out, you can power up a lot of stuff that way, just as long as the car's running.
Yeah. You got to be careful not to burn up all your gas, though.
Right. Yeah, because you can't get more gas. That's a good point. Yeah. So, but if you're running something small like a radio, we're talking about, your iPad charger or whatever, you don't even need to turn on your phone. You can run off your battery for hours and hours and hours. I mean, I used to run my laptop when I was getting ready to move in my house. Didn't have power where I was staying, about 8 hours on the battery. When I do play with the band outside, I'd run the amps stuff for same thing, about 6-8 hours on a car battery. So it's pretty handy to have. And basically, it's quiet. It's quieter than a generator. And what Jimmy pointed out before one of our shows is you don't want people knowing you have a generator. If you have a generator, it makes that noise, you're automatically a target for some desperado, to come steal it.
That's true. You want to be stealth in any type of situation, but for some reason there's like a 36-hour period where the first 24 to hours people really don't know what's going on, and they kind of stay back and they stay meek. There's something about that last 24-hour period where people start getting ideas, man. They start saying, "Fuck this, man." Let's go down and get us a pair of Air Jordans, like Bruce was saying earlier. I mean, it's like stuff starts to happen. Here, let's flash back to this. This is one you brought up, Rio, and this is in the microcosm. Here comes blackout, power outage that left 50 million without electricity.
A colossal and history-making blackout.
People trapped in elevators and buildings. They have activated the emergency command center.
You're staggering, trying to take in as much information as you can.
Mayor Bloomberg's advice is to go straight home.
The subway system is down.
Ottawa is completely without power now.
The lightning-quick domino series of failures.
Gotta go to the bathroom and you can't even go nowhere.
50 million people are thought to have lost power.
In 2003, a massive blackout struck major areas of the U.S. and Canada and was perceived as a wake-up call for the nation.
We've got a real crisis in our grid, and this is why, despite being a superpower, we have a grid that is comparable to a third world country, and that's not right.
But have 10 years of planning and preparation left us better off today?
I don't think you can ever say with 100% confidence we won't have a blackout.
Electricity is really far more important than anyone realizes. We take it for granted. We flick the switch and it goes on. but it has to be in balance or the lights go out.
There has been a massive power outage throughout much of the Northeast, both of the United States and of Canada.
Millions and millions of people were caught by surprise when the electrical grid suddenly crashed.
It shut down 100 power plants, from Ottawa down to Cleveland and as far east as New York.
The most immediate concern was for thousands believed to be stranded underground in the dark in the New York subway system or in elevators in skyscrapers.
The attacks of 9/11 were pretty fresh in everybody's mind, and the first thought on almost every New Yorker that I spoke to's mind was, is this terrorism?
The police are saying that the evacuation procedures are working, people are calm, and that they are getting out.
A normal August afternoon had turned to crisis. Around 50 million people across the U.S. and Canada were left without power.
All of Cleveland's water supply runs on electric pumps.
My water commissioner said, the people in the Heights have water for 3 hours. I said, water? I thought the electric was out. He said, Mayor, how do you think the water gets from the lake to the people in the Heights?
You can get along in the dark, you can get along in the heat, but water becomes a health and safety issue very quickly.
While terrorism was soon ruled out, there was a frenzied search to unravel the mystery behind the source of the blackout.
We don't know yet what went wrong, but we will.
What we're hearing on the radios is that there was some sort of incident in Ontario, Canada.
There was a lot of finger pointing.
U.S. officials initially accused a mishap at a Canadian utility plant. The mayor of Toronto fired back.
Tell me, have you ever seen the United States take blame for anything?
It took 29 hours for the power to be turned back on in most major cities, but the brief outage contributed to at least 11 deaths and caused an estimated $6 billion in economic losses.
We were fortunate that the grid stayed up as it did and it didn't continue cascading any further.
Engineers spent months unraveling the cause of the blackout and traced it not to New York or Canada, but to a downed power line in Ohio.
The theory was it was a tree in suburban Cleveland. And we were like, what?
The official report later found it was a series of human and operational failures that set the blackout in motion. A downed power line went unnoticed because the alarm system failed at the local power company, First Energy, and soon other lines were overloaded.
When the line overheated, it sagged. And as it sagged, it hit a tree that shouldn't have been in the right-of-way corridor.
Meanwhile, at the regional service operator, Midwest ISO, an employee had gone to lunch and forgot to turn back on the tool that monitored grid problems.
As the grid in Ohio got less and less stable, with too much voltage over too few lines, power plants began to turn off. And eventually it cascaded around the Lake Erie Loop and all the way to New York.
Investigators said today this nation's worst power blackout was mostly the fault of the First Energy Corporation of Akron, Ohio.
First Energy was busy trying to grow, trying to absorb other companies. And the report found that they had let many basic things go. That included tree trimming under these power lines. Their computers hadn't been upgraded. There was more than that.
First Energy declined to speak with us, but has publicly said it implemented new safeguards. Many saw the blackout as emblematic of a wider problem, one brought about by a lack of government oversight for years in the electric industry.
The standards are voluntary and not enforceable.
It's like expecting your kids, when you walk out of the room and leave a pile of candy, not to help themselves, unless you said, there will be consequences if you grab that pile of candy.
First Energy was never fined for its role in the blackout. In 2005, Brownell's agency, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, was finally given the power to impose hefty fines and has levied tens of millions of dollars in penalties since 2010. But fundamental issues remain.
It still doesn't quite make sense to me that the grid was that vulnerable.
It's a big old system.
when it started. You had a little local system. You had an electric power provider, a plant, a spider web of wires around the plant to serve customers near the plant. Then you put together a national system where you connect all those spider webs. It's grown up over a long period of time, and there just isn't one center or one organization or one entity that's in control of the whole system.
There have been improvements since the blackout, including those that allow power companies to better monitor usage. The goal is to use that information to
FM. So there it is, Cypress Hill. So what do you guys think now? Now it says it looks like it's all narrowed down to this one tree over there in Ohio. It knocked 50 million people offline for 29 hours. They got it up and running before that critical 36-hour and not a moment too soon. How much did they say they lost? $6 billion in 29 hours of not being online. $6 billion were lost. So what do you guys think about that? There it is, man. I mean, it's number 2. There's 2003. It's after the 9/11 attacks. The video and the stuff that was going on in the documentary that we're watching here, that's called Power Outage that left 50 million without electricity. Retro report, New York Times. There's plenty of documentary style footage, and I saw a lot of people just basically walking across the bridge, people walking everywhere. I guess gridlock ensues when there's no red lights. People start moving when they shouldn't, and then eventually things get backed up because there's no control. Is that what happens, Rio? When the power goes out, since no control, people sneak on the red light, or they don't let enough people.
There is no red light to sneak on. They just kind of all, and I mean, I know maybe it's a little different in some other places, but everybody in New York is pushy, so they want to be the first one through that, right? And if they not held back by the light, they're gonna make their way in there, right? So that just makes it all that much worse.
Well, one night I was doing some fiber optic work for a big company in San Francisco, and I couldn't get in there until after 5 o'clock, so I had to wait, and I had to literally do 15 minutes worth of work, but I had to wait. And there was a ball game going on at San Francisco Candlestick Park at the new ballpark, Pac Bell Field or whatever. And so when I was trying to come out of this parking garage, I literally sat there for 45 minutes waiting to somebody to let me come off the curb out of this parking garage. Nobody would, and finally, right in front of me, I had edged out, and right in front of me, somebody left about 18 inches of space, and I triangled my front bumper in there so they couldn't go. And I squeezed my way in, and I blocked traffic, and then I let everybody off the curb get on the street. because they wouldn't let us get on. So I'm just can only imagine in the event that there was an emergency. I mean, these people wouldn't let me in at the baseball game. At emergency, I don't think they're gonna let. I mean, it's gonna be gridlock, wouldn't you say? Gridlock.
Yeah, you know, just thousands of people sitting in their cars honking their horns at each other.
Mm-hmm. The smart people go, you know what? The guy up there, a couple of guys, they look around, they go, fuck this, I'm out of here. And they get out of their cars and they leave them there. They run out of gas. All of a sudden, everything's jammed up, man. You can't get that car out of the way. The tow truck can't get there. The roads are jammed up. Nobody's going anywhere now. And you're all sitting
That's
there.
like even a big concern with like evacuation plans and stuff, right?
Yeah.
When
Well,
we evacuate an entire city, you know,
That's
there's
right.
people running out of gas, and you know, it blocks up traffic even worse and backs it up even farther.
What's the first thing people do when this happens? They all jump on their cell phone to call their wife, to call their husband, call their significant other, to find out what the hell's going on. Everybody's on their phone trying to see what's going on. Guess what happens?
Communications goes down too.
That's right. Capacity issues. You're overloading the cell sites around the city that are normally don't have to deal with all those people all at once. No cell phone service anymore. You're out. So now you're completely out. Only thing you got left is radio, but then how much radio is really going out over the air anymore? I mean, do they still have the big radio stations in New York City? You know, WABC and all this thing? WABC.
Yeah, WABC is still on.
Mm-hmm. Now, is it still a 50,000 water just burning through the night, blasting, you know, from halfway across the United States?
Yeah, it pretty much is.
Well,
and
so-
of course, you can listen to it on your phone,
Mhm.
but you can still tune in on AM.
Well, that's good that they at least still they have that. Now, see, here in California, they got rid of the repeater stations for ham radio for some reason a couple years ago. I'm not real sure why they did that. Bruce, are you still there? I know we're rambling here on this whole thing, and I know you're over there. You don't care about power going out because, I mean, you pretty much exist already in a way that, you know, you're conservative as far as the power that you're actually needing.
I think we lost Bruce.
Did we?
Well, he was yellow for a second. He's green again. So
I
maybe
wouldn't doubt
he'll
it.
pop
I'm not
back
sure.
in.
He's probably hanging back. It's all right. He's like Pulp Fiction. He goes and hangs back for a minute. But so there it is. So you see the cascading effect of the power going out, and so it's actually a very threatening. It's threatening to hear the president of BlackRock to straight come out and say the power's going out and people are going to be upset. And he said, I think people are going to find themselves being upset real soon or something to that effect. We'll find out exactly what he said after the top of the hour.
Well, you know, I have a question for you because you being in California, I know many times during the summer, especially like in LA and stuff, they do these rolling blackouts. Do people like freak out about that, or does it just like become the norm? Like, all right, the power's gonna be out for a couple hours, and I'll be back. You know, I mean, does that feel normal to you guys?
No, it doesn't feel normal at all. It feels like, I mean, because we pay super high taxes to live in these areas. And, you know, one of the givens about living in a quote-unquote first world country is that the power doesn't go out like that. And, you know, so since the fires happened and they got made to pay for their negligence or whatever their culpability was on the fire, they said, well, you know, if you're going to make us pay, then from now on, if there's any wind, we're just going to fucking turn it off. We feel like it's uncomfortable for us and something might catch on fire, we're turning it off.
Yeah, there's something about that really bothers me.
It bothers me.
And it's that you know, it's their responsibility. They were talking about how that Ohio company was buying up all these other smaller companies. Exactly what PG&E did. They're buying up all these smaller companies, and they weren't going to put any work into the infrastructure. They weren't going to trim the trees or do anything. They were just acquiring. It's their fault that stuff happened. That's why they lost that lawsuit. But now they're going to get bailed out, which they have to for the benefit of the citizens. But like this infrastructure bill, one of the things that's in there, and it better stay there, is to start putting power lines underground, because that's where they belong. Come on, it's the 21st century, man. We're not supposed to be having above ground power lines anymore. It's just stupid going through the woods. These dry woods in California now and around the West. I mean, that's just dumb. You're asking for trouble. But it kind of bothers me that as much as it's needed, in a way, the very people who are responsible for all this damage and basically caused this mass exodus out of California are the very ones who are going to benefit some by this free money, essentially, to help them. It's helping us too, but it's actually helping them.
What was the whole thing that happened? Now, was this grid at one point they said, well, it would be all good to have it all under one system. But then there was some point where they broke it up, didn't they? And there was this whole thing with, what was it, Exxon? What was the...
Enron.
Enron,
exactly. These companies in Texas started cheating us in California. They conspired, right? And they raised our electric rates to where, like, I was living in outside of San Diego, in San Diego County, and my electric bill went from like $180 to $589 a month. Nothing changing. And it was all going to these pockets of these freaking Texans. Sorry, Texans, but it pissed me off, right? 'Cause it was Enron. It was absolutely corporate greed.
Well,
and those very same people are the ones who did this, hostile takeover of all these private companies, right? And didn't do their due diligence and maintenance. They took the money into putting none of the effort into improving the infrastructure.
There you go. So, listen, are people under the impression that you're just going to be able to buy some electric car and think that, I'm going to buy this electric car, I'm never going to have to pay for gas again? Do people think that you're still going to be paying the same price for electricity to fill up your car? No.
Well, not only that, if the power goes out, how are you going to plug your car in?
No shit. But even above and beyond that, okay, even when before that happens or after it happens and everything comes back, you will be paying so much money to charge your car. You'll still have to be rich, just like you'll have to be rich to drive with gasoline. Now, over here, there's a resistance point in California to gas prices. And it's always been $5. Once it hits $5 or gets close, it bounces and goes back down because people can't handle it. Well, it broke through the resistance point, just like how gold and all these other things have resistance. It broke through the $5 resistance here. So all down the street now, there's gasoline for $5.25 a gallon everywhere. So it's only a matter of time. So no, listen, when it costs money for gasoline, that means everything's going to cost more. Energy's going to cost more. Are people going to have to decide over the winter if they're going to be able to turn on the heat or not? Are people going to...
I think Bruce just rematerialized.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what happened? The power went out on my cell phone.
Nice.
Blackout. No, so...
And it was scary. I missed you guys.
Well, listen, the thing is, when the power goes out and you can't function, it's awfully difficult, especially like we were saying at the beginning. The power goes out, you go, where's my flashlight? Where's my lighter? Where's my matches? Where's my candles? All this. And, it's scary to be without what you normally consider the normal thing that everybody takes for granted. Everybody takes for granted when you turn on the faucet, the water comes out. When you flick on the light switch, the light's there. When you pick up the phone, it works. All of those things in modern society have made us soft. And when the power goes out, if you're not ingenious, you may get caught up in a situation you don't want to be caught up in, Bruce. It's terrifying.
It happens more often than we can imagine. In my case, I was sitting at home, and out of nowhere, I just started feeling uncomfortable. Then it got worse, and I started perspiring. I tried to ignore it, but I waited too long. The chest pain came as we were driving to the hospital emergency. I felt my life clock begin to tick. I barely survived. There was lots of damage done to my heart. What do I do now? I was lucky. I took a leap of faith and tried a 7-herb formula with hawthorn, garlic, cayenne, and more called Extendovite. Herbs have been used for thousands of years to keep us healthy. If you're not using Extendovite as a preventative supplement, maybe it's time to start. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Primal forces of nature, Mr. Beale, and I won't have it. Is that clear? You think you merely stopped a business deal? That is not the case. The Arabs have taken billions of dollars out of this country, and now they must put it back. It is ebb and flow, tidal gravity. It is ecological balance. You are an old man who thinks in terms of nations and peoples. There are no nations. There are no peoples. There are no Russians. There are no Arabs. There are no third worlds. There is no West. There is only one holistic system of systems. One vast and immane, interwoven, interacting, multivariate, multinational dominion of dollars. Petrodollars, electrodollars, multi-dollars, Reichmarks, rims, rubles, pounds, and shekels. It is the international system of currency which determines the totality of life on this planet. That is the natural order of things today. That is the atomic and subatomic and galactic structure of things today. And you have meddled with the primal forces of nature. And you will atone. Am I getting through to you, Mr. Beale? Get up on your little 21-inch screen and howl about America and democracy. There is no democracy. There is only down.
About 7 o'clock, it's the 9:02 and I make several stops. I keep the conversation and my pattern light. I hit the elevator, oh I feel alright. I check the numbers first and I'm right on time. I watch the
Aftermath FM. Blackstone CEO Steven Schwartzman warned Tuesday that high energy prices will likely set off social unrest around the world. We're going to end up with a real shortage of energy. And when you have a shortage of energy, it's going to cost more and more, and it's probably going to cost a lot more. The private equity billionaire told CNN's International Richard Quest at a conference in Saudi Arabia, when the power goes out, people are not going to be happy. And people are not going to be happy if it goes out for an extended period of time. According to Schwartzman, we will soon see, quote, very unhappy people, unquote, all over the globe. You're going to get very unhappy people around the world, in the emerging markets in particular, but in the developed world, Schwartzman said at the Future Investment Initiative. What happens then, Richard, is that you've got real unrest. The challenge, the political system, and its utter hang on. Let me bring this. Let me reel this in, because my mind is reeling at the same time I'm reading this. This challenges the political system, and it's all utterly unnecessary. Sadly, he is right that this global energy crisis did not have to happen. If the global elite had continued to fund the traditional energy projects at the pace that was needed, we could have avoided the nightmare at a very large degree. But traditional forms of energy are now being shunned by billions of people, and billions of people will suffer as a result. So in other words, what's going on is anything that has to do with the old way and carbon footprints is being shunned by the billionaires. They're not investing in these companies. They're waiting to see what's happening. And they're investing in green companies, which means it's leaving us with a big gaping hole in the resources that we need to continue. So it says overall, we'll be told this upcoming Thanksgiving will be the most expensive Thanksgiving that anyone had never, ever experienced before. Matthew McClure paid 20% more this month than he did last month for the 25 pasture-raised turkeys he plans to roast at the Hive, a Bentonville, Arkansas restaurant where he is the executive chef. And he said he paid twice as much than usual for the turkeys. He said, I've never seen anything like it. I've been running sweet potatoes and turkeys and whatever else he's been doing for all these years. Never seen anything like it. Unfortunately, more price hikes are on the horizon. In fact, Kimberly-Clark is opening warning that they're going to be boosting prices even higher. Prices of toilet paper, diaper, facial tissues, paper towels are likely to rise in the coming weeks. Urban-based consumer giant Kimberly-Clark warned Monday that inflation and supply chain concerns aren't likely to be resolved quickly. So, I mean, without going into any more detail, there it is. So now the president of BlackRock's telling us the people are going to get angry when the power goes out for a long time. And he says people are about to get real angry globally. So what is he telling us? Is the power getting ready to go out? Is that the Great Reset, like I said earlier? Flick it off, flick it back on, reboot?
Here's the secret, Jimmy. It's so simple. Before they build back better, they got to break it real good. So it needs to be built back, right? There's nothing to build back better now. You got to touch up infrastructure. Maybe, the rail lines are still good. All you got to do is go to, new kind of train system, electromagnetic or something. But they're literally breaking the economy. I saw this first happening in Canada under Trudeau. Everything this guy did was detrimental to the Canadian economy. And I said to myself, my God, this guy is deliberately destroying the economy. Then the Great Reset rhetoric started to sneak in, and it all made sense. And everybody in on this plan is doing the same thing, and Biden's in on it. Break it first, then build it back better.
Mm-hmm. Well, you guys jump in on here because I don't think a lot of people have never even heard of BlackRock until recently when they heard people start talking about BlackRock buying up single-family homes, which we started talking about 3 or 4 months ago before anybody was even talking about it. We were talking about it.
Yeah, who's the panel expert on BlackRock? How long have they had a corporate charter? I think it's just a money fund that went out and bought up a smaller bunch of hedge funds and then just started buying shit up.
Well, I have so much background on BlackRock and Vanguard, and we're gonna get into that, man, coming up here in a second, because I got a really great piece of information for everybody who's unaware. Because all these people are always constantly looking for who is it, who's in charge, who's the.
It's a Fink, man. It's a Fink. The guy's name is Larry Fink. Founded it.
Well, listen to this.
Can't make that up.
Yeah, but listen to this. Everybody's always saying, who is it? Who's in charge of it? Everybody thinks it's this Hollywood or this guy or that, the Clintons, all this bullshit. No, it isn't. There's 2 companies, Vanguard and BlackRock. Listen, this is a little bit slow moving here for a few minutes, but listen, it's worth every minute of your time. Trust me on this. Find out who these people are, because listen, I'm telling you, there really is only really one company at the end of the line that owns everything. And when I say the company store, I'm not joking. Literally, every single thing that exists, all the money eventually goes back to these companies. They own everything. They own the resources coming out of the ground, the companies that get it out of the ground, the companies that make it, the companies that sell it. Ladies and gentlemen, you want to know who it is? You're about to find out. right here. Monopoly, an overview of the Great Reset. This informative video gives you an overview of what's currently happening in the world in less than 1 hour. This video shows modern global systems and how they're about to be
Dear fellow human,
destroyed.
I think by now you're sensing that something does not seem right. But I also think that poorly argumented conspiracy theories have caused you to stay far from the fear-mongering media and conspiracy theorists alike. But please listen, because as you're watching, millions fall into poverty because of the corona measures of the past year. Even if the greatest economic crisis in history has not affected you yet, it will only be a matter of time until the rippling effects will hit you as well. This is not fear-mongering, but it's a harsh reality. I also think we might mitigate the damage and may even do better provided we are informed correctly about our situation. This is why I would like to show you a few facts you can easily check. Facts that are of crucial importance. Less than a handful of big corporations dominate every aspect of our lives. That may seem exaggerated, but from the breakfast we eat to the mattress we sleep on and everything we wear and consume in between is largely dependent on these corporations. Those are huge investment companies that determine the course of money flow. They are the main characters of the play that we are witnessing. I know your time is valuable, so I summarized the most important data. How does it work? Let's take PepsiCo as an example. It is the parent company of many soda companies and snack companies. The so-called competitive brands are from factories from a few corporations who monopolize the entire industry. In the packaged food industry, there are a few big companies, like Unilever, the Coca-Cola Company, Mondelez and Nestlé. In the picture you see that most brands in the food industry belong to one of these corporations. The big companies are on the stock market and have the big shareholders in the board of directors. On sources like Yahoo Finance, we can see detailed company info such as who the biggest shareholders actually are. Let's take PepsiCo again as an example. We see about 72% of stock is owned by no less than 3,155 institutional investors. These are investment companies, investment funds, insurance companies, banks, and in some cases governments. Who are the biggest institutional investors of PepsiCo? As you can see, only 10 of the investors own together nearly 1/3 of the stock. Let's look at the top 10 and start at the bottom 6 of them. 4 of these institutional investors we also saw at the bottom 6 of PepsiCo. These are Northern Trust, JP Morgan Chase, Geode Capital Management and Wellington Management. Now let's look at the 4 biggest stock owners. They are BlackRock, Vanguard and State Street. These are the world's biggest investment firms, so PepsiCo and Coca-Cola are not competitors at all. The other big companies that own a myriad of brand names like Unilever, Mondelez and Nestlé are from the same small group of investors. But it's not only in the food industry that their names come up. Let's find out on Wikipedia which are the biggest tech companies. Facebook is the owner of WhatsApp and Instagram. Together with Twitter, they form the most popular social media platforms. Alphabet is the parent of all Google companies like YouTube and Gmail. But they are also the biggest investor in Android, one of the 2 operating systems for nearly all smartphones and tablets. The other operating system is Apple's iOS. If we add Microsoft to the above 3, we see 4 companies making the software for nearly all computers, tablets and smartphones in the world. Let's see who are the biggest shareholders of these companies. Take Facebook. We see that 80% of the stock is owned by institutional investors. These are the same names that came up in the food industry. The same investors are in the top 3. Next is Twitter. It forms with Facebook and Instagram the top 3. Surprisingly, this company is in the hands of the same investors as well. We see them again with Apple and even with their biggest competitor, Microsoft. Also, if we look at other big companies in the tech industry that develop and make our computers, TVs, phones and home appliances, we see the same big investors that together own the majority of the stock. It's true for all industries, I'm not exaggerating. One last example. Let's book a holiday. On a computer or a smartphone, we search for a flight to a sunny country on Skyscanner or Expedia. Both are from the same small group of investors. We fly with one of the many airlines, many of which are in the hands of the same investors and of governments, as is the case with Air France-KLM.
You get the picture, right? Would you say that's pretty intense? There you go. They own everything. Would that be a pretty fair statement?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I mean,
when the CEO of that company, Bruce Blackstone, when he says to us, let me go back to his quote. When he says to us, here. So now we all get to suffer. A lack of oil is pushing the price of gasoline to alarming heights. Shortages of natural gas are already causing tremendous disruptions in Asia and Europe. And we're being told that we are facing a propane Armageddon this winter, and supplies of coal have dropped to dangerously low levels around the world. In other words, we are potentially heading for the most painful global energy crisis in modern history. Would you say, I mean, the guy he's the CEO of the company that owns mostly everything in the world, and he's telling you that. Would you say it's time to pay attention?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what did you find out, Epic Journeyman? BlackRock. Who is...
Yeah, it was that Larry Fink guy, right? And the other guys that started, it's like 6 guys to start. And they started with a couple $1 million back in the 90s, 92 or so. And now they're up to $11 trillion in assets. 11 trillion, which is phenomenal. But then what makes it interesting, this subdivision called Aladdin, right? So it's BlackRock Solutions. They renamed it. And Aladdin is this electronic system that they run that manages $21 trillion worth of stuff. I just think it's really interesting that this, I've heard of this system before it was, merged with BlackRock. And when people talk about this black box, they're talking about BlackRock's black box that tells people where to invest. And if you're one of the people that they serve that's in with the in crowd, they'll tell you what stocks to buy. They'll give you a winner, basically. And I just thought it was interesting that Aladdin would be the name. It stands for Asset Liability Debt and Derivative Investment Network, supposedly. But in a way, it's like rubbing the lamp, right? It's like giving your wishes. And it's we're talking all the time about how these emerging technologies and artificial intelligence get combined, and we don't see how it's all getting used. But here's this company that not only grew to incredible heights, but is actually involved multinationally towards even having things with governments of China, Ireland, other places incorporated into it. So yeah, it's too big to fail, and it's ironic to say that because a lot of the places that did fail or were failing in the 2008 economic collapse were snatched up by BlackRock. So Blackstone first became BlackRock, and yeah, it's no accident that most people don't really hear about them. They don't talk about them on the stock exchange necessarily, right? they talk about the companies that they own, they manage. We should never hear about BlackRock. They're like the man behind the curtain in all this.
I know. And so when the power goes out, I mean, when it comes back on, well, you still have your bank account. We still have the money in the bank that you had when the power didn't. When the power was on, everything was okay, and then now the power went out and it comes back. It's the Great Reset, and yeah, I'm sorry, all those old banks, they're not there anymore. So when you go down there that day, that Monday, the following Monday after Black Friday or whatever it is, you go down there, all the signage will be done, turned around on Bank of America, and all those old banks are going to be gone. Because there's not going to be any need for four walls and a brick building. You don't go down and see the man, bring your paperwork down there to get a loan anymore. You don't go for cash anymore. There's really no... What's the purpose of banks? To cash a check? I mean, they want you to give them a urine sample and a DNA sample before they'll even cash a check now. And don't even, you think your money's safe in the bank, but then, anybody can just, who has a beef, can just come up and snatch your money without anybody saying a peep about it. They don't even give them a pushback at all. So, literally, this company sits on top of all these companies that everybody thinks are in charge of something. They're just franchises, man.
Is it not interesting enough? Or are there other interests at play? Wikipedia again gives us the answer. They say that about 90% of the international media is owned by 9 media conglomerates. Whether we take the monopolists Netflix and Amazon Prime, or enormous concerns that own many daughter companies like Time Warner, the Walt Disney Company, Comcast, Fox Corporations, Bertelsmann and Viacom CBS, we see that the same names own the stocks. These corporations not only make all the programs, movies and documentaries, but also own the channels on which those are broadcast. So not only the industries, but also the information is owned by the elite. I will show you briefly how this works in the Netherlands. To start with, all the Dutch mainstream media are owned by 3 companies. The first one is the Persgroep, the parent company of the following brands. Apart from the many newspapers and magazines, they also own Sanoma, the parent company of some of the big commercial Dutch channels. Many media outlets from abroad, like VTM, are also owned by the Persgroep. The second one is Mediahuis, one of Europe's biggest media concerns. In the Netherlands, Mediahuis owns the following brands. Until 2017, also Sky Radio and Radio Veronica were owned by Mediahuis, as were Radio 538 and Radio 10. And then there's Bertelsmann, which is one of the 9 biggest media firms. This company owns RTL, that owns 45 television stations and 32 radio stations in 11 countries. But Bertelsmann is also co-owner of the world's biggest book publisher, Penguin Random House.
Get ready. Even more powerful.
The stocks of these companies are owned by private funds of 3 families.
Hi, I'm Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities,
Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But
we are concerned about troubling, irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
Plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish things that simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 Aftermath FM.
It's going someplace and there's no turning back. The highway patrol chopper coming up over the ridge. Man sleeps by a campfire under the bridge. The shelter line stretching around the corner. Welcome to the New World Order. Families sleeping in their cars out in the Southwest. No job, no home, no peace, no rest. No rest! Searching for the ghost of Tom Jones.
We'll be right back.
How healthy are your arteries? Deteriorating circulation has a number of early warning signs. High cholesterol, high blood pressure, fingers and or toes often go cold. Arms and or legs often go to sleep. Sharp diagonal crease in the earlobe. Short walks cause cramping or pains in legs. Memory is not as good as it used to be. Ankles swell late in the day. Chest pain after physical exercise or emotional stress. If you experience even one of these symptoms, your circulatory system is crying out for attention. Extendovite is a natural solution to help improve your overall health. Extendovite is not your average heart tonic. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or find us on Amazon.
Extend your Extendovite.
It's Aftermath FM. It's Into the Microcosm. We got 30 minutes left. I just want to let you know you can find the full show on Aftermath FM in the podcast section or where you can find podcasts. If you want to become members, $79 for the year right now.
Your finger, you must have been out your head. I hold deep in muddy waters. You practically raised the dead. Rob the grave to snow.
Monday through Friday, 10:30 Pacific, right here immediately following Clyde Lewis and Ground Zero. You'll find us. Tool, 10,000 Days is the album. The Pot is the song. Pissed all over my black kettle. You must have been high. On some levels, the best thing that could happen is the power going out. But I don't know, man. You get what you wish for, I guess. Water and electricity don't mix.
On society, up on my family, up on your social disease. I've given up on the industry, up on democracy. Done with all your hypocrisy. All of the chaos and all of the lies, I hate it. I'm wasted here, can anyone wash it all away? I'm waiting here for anyone to wash it all away. Wash it all away. I've given up on the media feeds, my hysteria. Up in my Chrysler, it's as big as a whale, and it's about to set sail. I got me a car, it seats about 20, so come on and bring your jukebox money. Dig through the ditches and burn through the witches and slam in the back of my Jaguar. Dig through the ditches and burn through the witches and slam in the back of my
Love Shack Zombie. It's into the microcosm. Hey, how you guys doing? I thought I'd give you a little break to go check the perimeter, get yourself something to drink. We got about 24 minutes left of this bad boy. Not much time left. Rockin' Rio, what are you thinking, man? Are you going to get yourself some sort of a generating unit? Something to keep yourself up and running if the power should go out? Looks like everybody's out checking the perimeter.
No, I checked the perimeter.
Oh, yeah. So
I got solar at my house, but over here in Maui, I don't. I mean, I have alternatives because I have solar for the company. Basically, we could always go, you know what I mean, and use it in a bind, you know. But it's always a good idea to have inverter and batteries. That's stuff I said earlier. I mean, even if you don't have a solar setup right now, it's a good idea. You can get fold-out solar panels, relatively inexpensive now. You can put them in the back of your car and use your car as your escape, plan. Basically, and this is for real. If you ever really do have an emergency, like a major emergency, you got about an hour to decide if you're going to try to wait it out where you're at or get the F out of Dodge, right?
It's true.
You do. You need to get on the road before everybody else does, and don't plan on coming back anytime soon. So you either need to stock up and have stores at the house and be planning on riding it out, or you need to have it in your head that you have a bug out bag or just an idea of what you're going to take right away. Some stuff already in the car and go. First thing you should do is get the heck out. If you're especially in a big city, like a really big city, in a real urban area where you depend on supply lines like that, yeah, you don't want to be there.
Well, the other thing is, too, you don't want to be caught with any life-threatening medications that you might need that might not be available to you. So it's always like try to get a good idea to talk to your doctor and get them to, give you some emergency stuff in case you have some heart medications or something you got to be taking, It's a precarious situation. And like I said earlier, if you don't have the paperwork saying what's in the bank, then you don't have anything in the bank when the power goes out. You don't have any way to prove anything. So, it's a hard way to go, man, for sure. So did Rock and Reel?
Well,
go ahead, Bruce.
So let me just speak to this because you keep saying this like, when the power goes out, the money's going to disappear. So, I've done disaster recovery plans for bank IT infrastructure. Like it's all backed up, Jimmy. Even if the servers go down, what happens is transactions stop. So for the time that the power's out, you can't do any transactions. Okay. But when the power comes back, I mean, the data is all there. The data, there's nobody going to go through there with a big magnet all over the world and erase bank servers. The money's going to be there. So I don't.
Well, maybe the money will be somewhere on some machine somewhere. What you got to realize though is that the gateways that direct all the traffic of the internet, so a standalone server somewhere with information on it that may or may not exist, who knows? I don't think we'd all of a sudden start believing that there was something. If they came back, I'm just saying, if this companies BlackRock and Vanguard told all those media companies to tell you that there was a reversal in polarity that happened, and when everything went reverse, it really blew out everything. There is no memory anymore of what there was, Bruce. Nobody has anything anymore. So now all you got to do is go down and get your thing down there. Because it doesn't matter, right? It only exists because they let it exist to you somewhere on a screen. But nobody has their money that's in the bank. If you have $100,000 in the bank, it's not like you got 100 G of Soprano rolls laying around in your pillowcase. You got 100 G over there because they say you do. And if they say you don't, then you won't. And how will you prove that you did?
Well, you could have a cash page of your statement from your online banking.
Exactly.
Your wet. There's all kinds of ways. I mean, so what you're talking about is that the blackout might be they might do the bail-in then.
That's what I think.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think it would be the perfect time.
Dude, that would be a revolution. People would be out with pitchforks and machetes, man. There's no way.
Well, that's why they would let it.
That would be a unifying. That would actually might be a good thing, given the division in America now. Because the only thing every American, male, female, black, white, transgender, lesbian, gay, straight agree on is their cheddar, right?
Well,
so if you want to end the political divide between the Democrats and the Trumpites, take people's cheddar, and that's going to unify them all. I can't see them doing that. Not at this stage.
I don't see there being any unification whatsoever, because after the 36-hour period is over with, at that point, society is going to be degraded to a point where they say here, the president of BlackRock says people, when this happens, people get angry, and he says people are going to be angry real soon. And the thing is, after they'll let the period of time go by, okay, they'll let everything settle itself out. So whoever's left, when the smoke clears, they're not going to be so angry anymore. They're going to fight. They've fought their way through some situation for the last 30 days. And they came up with dirty faces and ripped shirts to the fence down at the FEMA Center.
With a boomerang and a Mad Max style.
See what I'm saying, Bruce? Bruce, I mean, I had this conversation with a bro of mine, a good friend of mine, musician, and I kept saying to him, dude, it's fucking ones and zeros, man. If your computer goes away, there isn't anything. You don't have anything. If I write a book and it's on the internet and that's all, I don't have a printed book in my hand and the internet goes out, I don't have shit. So the thing is, it's all there as long as it's all working fine. I'm just saying, if you believe there's a really powerful organization that has a vested interest in Bitcoin not being what it is, the best thing to do for that is to just wipe out whatever there is right now with a power outage that lasts for a period of time. And when you come back, you're going to come back with a certain kind of internet too that you're not going to be able to get on it unless you have that proof, like I said earlier.
I'm glad you brought that up. I wanted to get to that because Facebook changed its name to Meta today. And it's heavily focused in VR and AR. In AR, as we talked about, this hyper reality is going to be the new internet. That they've been trying to call mirror world and all that stuff. That is what it could be. It's going to be that, right? And so when the internet 1.0 goes down, and it's got off for a long time, that is our chance to build back better. And the financial system will go to blockchain, and all these things will happen because we can't afford to have always, conflicting ledgers fight each other. We need one good ledger, right? And you can totally see it happening. And they've prepped us by saying every time there's a big hurricane or natural disaster, oh man, the power could be out in Texas for 3 months. It could be out in New Orleans for 3 months. It's going to take all this time to get transformers and all stuff. And it never does. It's always less than a month, It's going to be out in Florida for 3 months. Well, they can't let it go 3 months because then by that time, people adjust to their new lifestyle. Whatever's going to happen is going to change. And you have a hard time, like we learned in the pandemic, with people going back to the old way after a while because they've become adapted, right? But 30 days, 30 days, that's what they need. About 30, let's call it 45 days. For my submarine days, one thing that I found is that was the magic tipping point. There's 2 spots when you're submerged underwater where you get stressed, where it actually hits you. At 3 weeks, it hits you, and then you're good till 45 days, basically. So your first humps at 3 weeks, that's when you really start to feel it, right? That subsides, and then at 45 days, you get it again. And people who are on the SSBN ballistic missile submarines, they used to do 90-day deployments. So they know it really well. Us on fast attacks, we're just out at sea all the time, but it's not uncommon for us to be out for 45 days or so. And that really is like the limit. Like that is where you really start to feel it. Mm-hmm. So I think I think they found that that is a social experiment that they've done years, decades worth of research on. Now they know 21 days is a magic number, and 45 days is a magic number for sure.
Well, just think of all these police officers and fire people that are leaving their jobs because they don't want to get vaxxed. All these people, there's going to be a severe shortage of people that used to do stuff. They're not going to be there anymore. So,
So I'll meet you halfway, Jimmy. There's a reason all IMF, World Bank, Bank of International Settlement member countries wrote bail-in legislation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's going to be blackout, power back on, your money's gone. But they're going to announce it. They're going to say, okay, this is a financial crisis. When the banks, technically the bail-ins were written, and I've read the Canadian legislation. Mm-hmm. The bail-ins were written to save banks. Okay, mm-hmm. So when you start to see banks getting, but like this has been like, have you ever noticed how much the alternative media gets wrong? Not this show. This show is remarkable. You guys are remarkably accurate in your research. Remember this Deutsche Bank story that was hanging around for like 5 seconds? Oh, Deutsche Bank is ready to go. It's going to go.
Yeah.
And if Deutsche Bank, dude, they just posted their profits for this quarter. They're doing fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know,
BlackRock bought them out.
I mean, just to add to bolster what you're saying, the power doesn't have to go out and you have nothing. The power goes out, but you don't have what you used to have because that old thing is not there anymore. That old dollar is gone. When you come back on the new system, you'll have money, but the money is going to be the new money because Basel III is getting ready to happen, man. I mark my words. If there was ever a time when a power outage would be really blissful for a lot of people, is before that Basel III goes through, where people have to disclose their derivatives exposure. And when there's $3 quadrillion in exposure of derivatives, I mean, there's nothing. Everybody's ready for, hey, pull the plug on it, baby. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, I'm ready for my exposure to disappear because I got everything over here ready. When it comes back, I still have enough to get myself going again. Millions or billions or trillions. Go ahead.
Yeah, so generally, like in the financial world, there's dominoes you can see falling, okay? So the first domino that's going to fall is large pension funds, public and private, okay? And they've already, coincidentally, we brought up Enron tonight. I think Epic brought it up. That was the first big pension to go. That was under Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld, and that was total insider stuff. And was it Ken Lay was the CEO, and he miraculously has a heart attack before he goes to trial. But the pension funds will go first. And then all the people who are living month to month will laugh because, man, if you had a pension, you were rich, man. And there's basically human beings have a crab bucket mentality. And I'm sorry to be so negative about humanity tonight, but it's true. And it's getting worse and worse as the world gets darker and darker, right?
Mm-hmm.
I believe, and Rio's biblically literate, I believe the biblical remedy is to set yourself apart when you see this stuff, right? So the first thing to go will be the pension funds. And once they go, then wow. Then what will happen is people will start withdrawing all their money from the bank because they need it to live in their old age. They have to use private savings that aren't part of whatever their 401k, Social Security, or what have you. And then that'll be close to the time that the bail-in is ready to happen. But they have to destroy it all to bring in the Great Reset. They have to destroy it all.
Well, I mean, they're scraping.
Are you ready to make...
They're scraping gold down in Venezuela to buy groceries.
His point.
Jesus Christ, man. They are scraping pieces of gold, flakes of gold to go buy yourself some.
Saw that. Yeah, I saw that story too. It was mind-boggling, man. I should get some Venezuelans up here to cut abaca.
Well, they may be looking for work, but I'm just saying, people wonder, people say, haha, you can't eat gold or whatever. You can't eat silver. Well, no, you can't. But you could scrape some of that shit off and buy yourself a loaf of bread and some milk and maybe some hamburger down at the store.
Yeah.
So, I could just say, just plan for the power to go out, man. Have a flashlight. Go get yourself one of those crazy flashlights you can buy now that have the super bright light on them because you can use those to shine in people's eyes if you need a couple seconds to bone out before you got to run or something. But just make sure, don't go anywhere without something, man. I don't go anywhere without a Leatherman tool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I always have a knife. I always have something, a lighter, all this, because you don't know. California, you could be somewhere, and I used to work in a lot of buildings up in San Francisco. When there's an earthquake, power goes out, you're trapped in there, man. You know what I mean? It's like, and the thing is, man, I've been in San Francisco, enough times to know that if there's ever an earthquake in there and you're trying to get the F out, you're fucked, man. You're not getting out. It's going to be just like it was with me trying to get out of that parking garage. Going nowhere.
So, talking about surviving in communities, on a personal note, my son got through a very long travel ordeal, 12-hour layover in Houston.
Nice.
He's He's in Costa Rica now. He's still in the main city, San Jose, because his buddy from Portland, Oregon, is flying in tomorrow. He's never been here, doesn't speak Spanish, so he's going to meet him. And the two of them, they'll be here tomorrow night.
Excellent.
And Sunday, I'm killing. I have a 400-pound pig, Jimmy. I have a 400-pound pig, and we're putting it down, and I'm giving meat to the whole community, man. I'm not selling it. I'm just giving meat to everybody.
Badass. Man, see,
Yeah.
that's how you do it. You got enough, and then you share with their extra with everybody else, man. Then
They get and they pay you back, man. Like 3 months from now, after I've totally forgotten about it, someone will have an avocado tree come into bloom, and they'll show up with like 10 kilograms of avocados in 3 bags, like a 2-month supply of avocados, and that's how we roll up here, man. And I'm telling you, this whole autonomy thing is working out real well for me. I feel very secure in an increasingly insecure world.
I know. Well, the more you can do to be able to take care of yourself, the better off you'll be. Instead of having to pay people to do it for you, or to pay somebody, I was thinking about it today.
Yeah.
I was thinking it could be a cool business to start, is you could lease chickens out to people. Because, there's people that they can't have chickens where they live. So if you had property, you had chickens, you could give somebody a chicken and say, you give me X amount of dollars per month, and you get X amount of eggs from this chicken. And then because they're paying you so you could feed the chickens good organic food, so they got really good eggs. It'd be like this, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like I see these meat prices. People actually take pictures of meat at the grocery store now and put it on Facebook. My Toronto friends.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a 12-ounce ribeye steak is like $38 Canadian, which is about 32 US.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's outrageous, man. By the way, I got 5 cows now, and
Nice.
and three of the females are pregnant.
Beautiful. Well,
And
listen.
the bull is virile. They'll be knocked up again this time next year.
It's been some harsh information tonight, and I'm just
Yeah.
thinking, let's go out and chill. We'll be back tomorrow night, Friday night, live. Wes from Ground Zero will be joining us. Monty will be here. You're gonna be here, Bruce. This is gonna be a party tomorrow night. So definitely be here. Join us, and let's go out with some happy music. Here we go.
She couldn't spend one day alone, but she couldn't be satisfied. When you have everything, you have everything to lose. She made herself a bed of nails, and she's planning on putting it to use. But she had diamonds on inside. She had diamonds on inside. Diamonds. A candle throws its light into the darkness. In a nasty world, so shines a good deed. Make sure the fortune that you see is the fortune that you need. So tell me why the first ask is the last to give every time. What you say and do not mean follows you close behind. She had diamonds on.
Don't give up. You're not alone. See you tomorrow night.
She wore diamonds on inside. Diamonds.
South to Mouth FM. All right, man. We're clear from the network. There we go, boys. I don't know who's still here. Did Bruce leave?
It's a good,
Let's do it.
it's a good clean show.
Huh?
Good, clean show.
Thanks. Thanks, man.
Fucking depressing.
Depressing?
Dude, some of the shit's just so hard to cover now, right?
I know. Well, it's.
I feel like I feel like a paramedic arriving at a car crash where a baby died or something.
I know. It's harsh, man.
Yeah.
It's harsh, but hey,
Hard.
man, it's a harsh reality. I mean, most people have never even heard of BlackRock, let alone the president of the company saying something. Man.
Honestly, guys, Epic, Rio, Jimmy, I'm holding back these days, man. I mean, I don't. What I'm seeing in the U.S. now, they're setting up a kill box, man. And you know, are we on YouTube?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. But yeah, they're setting up a kill box, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's like every way out, and this is why I'm so happy, and Canada too, by the way. Although it'll be more about loss of freedom, like Australia and Canada, but they can't do that to Americans because Americans are too freedom-minded. So if they're going to follow through with this plan, they're going to have to kill a lot of people, man. And it's November 8th.
They're gonna let everybody kill each other, dude.
Well, that's the way to do it, right?
That's right.
The order givers never want the karma. They never want the dirt on their hands.
Mm-mm.
So the order takers are rebelling now. The nurses, the doctors, the cops, the firemen, and so it's just going to go to chaos. I mean, I swear to God, if you just went up and like slit Bill Blasio's throat, the mayor of New York, and said, "I'm the new mayor of New York," like Bane in The Dark Knight Rises, probably 3/4 of the city would support you if you had a plan to keep them alive.
I am the archvicar of Hollywood.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you ever read the book Apes in Essence?
I have not.
Yeah, I forget the author's name. He's a heroin addict, right?
Yeah, Hess.
Ah.
No,
I haven't read.
Yeah, no, it's Huxley. Ape in Essence is the name of the book, and it's shot at the premise of the book is scientists from New Zealand come back to America after World War III to see what happened because they were the only ones that survived, and this shipload of scientists come to America, and they land here and they come up on a society, a primitive society, that at that point they were burning books to bake bread. And the society, the females had no written on all of their clothing, front, back, and where their breasts are, the word no. And society at that point, they had decided that Satan was more powerful than God because God didn't stop the bombs, the nuclear bombs. And so they have a satanic administrative system. And some of the characters are, like I said, the archvicar of Hollywood is one guy. And so when they find this doctor, they bring him in and try to convince him and tell him what was going on. And so the whole book is about the conversations that doctor has with these people that are in charge of the world after World War III. It's a really great book. It's also written in a way that it describes everything like it's being shot by a movie. So like when you're beginning something, it'll give you like camera angles and stuff. It's a great book, man. No one talks about it, but it's an interesting book. I highly recommend it, man. You could probably pour through it in a short period of time because it's so interesting.
Yeah.
The archvicar of Hollywood.
Man, I downloaded the Brothers Karamazov, man. It's like 34 hours of audiobook. My son's here for 6 months, and we're gonna go through. I read it years ago in my 20s, but we're gonna go through the whole thing again. It's one of my favorite novels.
Well,
Dostoevsky's a genius, man.
Well, your son got out of there just in the nick of time.
Dude, the 31st of October is the deadline. Mm-hmm. It's a soft deadline, and then the hard deadline is November 30. But had he gone past October 31st, he would have had a whole bunch more hurdles to go through. and they probably would have demanded that he had at least the first vaccine.
Well,
so dude, like I am reading and having so many articles sent to me by friends who are healers like TCM, Ayurveda and stuff. I had no idea, man. I was trying not to face the reality of this vaccine. I had no idea. This is like it's big, but it won't be COVID or like the heart failure that kills a lot of people. Those are very dramatic side effects to the vaccine. What's really going to take people out is like the common cold in the wintertime, because the mRNA vaccine, it's very specific what it does. So once it goes into your body, the normal immune system policing of the white blood cells, the red blood cells stops. You have no immune system anymore. You've basically gone over to this new pharmaceutical-based immune system, and if they don't keep you plugged into what they're doing, you die.
Well,
right?
I'm really
it's gonna be horrific.
I'm really uncomfortable with the fact that remains that the population demographic that was mostly affected are the ones that were supposed to collect their Social Security and their retirement. Those are the same people that are dying off. And the people that aren't dying off are the ones that could be taxed for another 40 or 50 or 60 years. They're fine. Okay?
Yeah.
So,
dude, this is like Logan's Run, man. This is some straight up bullshit.
It is, man. All right, you guys, what do you want to do? You want to stay a little longer, Epic Journeyman? I think Rio fell asleep.
I got a bill. Yeah, I got to check. I had a couple alarms come in during the show, so I
you
got to
did?
see what they were.
All right, well then, you guys, let's get out of here, man. It's time to go.
Well,
all right, everybody.
Everybody.
All right, take care, everybody. We'll see you later.
While the blockade of Taiwan is a particularly provocative piece of brinksmanship on the part of the Chinese, defense analysts think it highly unlikely that national pride will make them want to take the world to the brink.
Would your country really put the world at risk by breaking this blockade?
Ma'am, there are two realities here. The State Department would like to continue to ease the Chinese and the world community. Politicians, however, face re-elections. And the mood of the American electorate is very strongly pro-Taiwan.
So you're saying...
What I'm saying is, chances of something going seriously wrong are higher than I would like to see them.
The hotline established between myself and the Chinese president, Mr. Li Wan, is in constant use. We are absolutely on top of this situation.
Mr. President! Mr. President!
Yeah.
Surely one of you has got to back down.
Well, there's room enough for give and take on both sides. Thank you all now, very much.
Can you give the world an absolute guarantee that the current crisis will not escalate to a dangerous level? That is our...
Are you still there?
Missile warning, this is Beale. Confidence is high. I repeat, confidence is high. Roger, we've got 32 targets in track and 10 impacting points. I want to confirm, is this an exercise? Roger, copy. This is not an exercise.
Roger,